Hey everyone, my guests today on this week's episode of the Bruce Lee podcast are my actual family members, Andy, Christie, and Julie. They are my first cousins and the children of my father's sister, my Auntie Agnes Chan. They all live on the East Coast, and though we haven't spent much time together in our lives, we all have a huge amount of affection for one another, as you will see in the episode. This episode will release at a time when many families are gathering together here in the US, sharing time and good food. So it is a happy coincidence that we will share our little family reunion with all of you during this time. So let me tell you a little bit about my cousins. Dr. Andy Chan is an accomplished urologist who is also a Jeet Kune Do practitioner under a student of Jerry Poteet's. Andy lives in Long Island with his family. His 3 kids, Zachary, Tyler, and Alexandra, are all accomplished fencers, thanks to Dad's deep interest in JKD, with Tyler competing on a national level at the Junior Olympics and Summer Nationals. Christie Chan Belknap, her married name is Belknap, practiced real estate law for 12 years in New York City before moving with her husband Tom and 2 kids, Lucy and Molly, to coastal Connecticut, where they currently reside. She has worked as a grant writer and currently works counseling prospective law students and guiding them through the law school admissions process. Juliana Wong, or Julie, is a 25 plus year veteran of the fashion industry. She has designed and consulted for various companies, including Jones Apparel Group, Bloomingdales, Neiman Marcus, and David's Bridal. She has collaborated with celebrity designers Zach Posen and Randolph on independent projects as well. Juliana currently lives in northern New Jersey with her husband John, raising her 2 teenage kids, Jacqueline and James. Christie, Julie, and Andy and I, as I said, haven't seen each other in person in many, many years, but we hope to rectify that next year with a visit. Check out their bios for more detailed information about my awesome cousins and see lots of great photos in the show notes. And please enjoy as we reminisce and share some family memories with all of you on this episode of the Bruce Lee Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Bruce Lee podcast. For this episode, I am so excited. I have some really special guests. I have today my cousins, Christie, Andy, and Julie. My cousins who their mom and my dad were sisters. I mean, we're siblings. I'll say that again. Their mom and my dad were siblings. So we are first cousins. Welcome to the podcast, you guys.
Hi. Thank you. Hello.
Wow, this is such a treat. We have been in touch here and there over the years. You guys live on the East Coast. I live on the West Coast. And, I often wish that we had been more in touch, which I am to blame for, because life is...
No, not at all. It's not your fault. Yeah.
But I remember when was it that we kind of connected for the first time? That was what?
Your wedding, Christie's wedding.
Well, right.
And it was after I graduated. It was after I graduated from law school, and I think I was going to visit friends in California, and I was like, I think I must have asked my mom, like, do you know, are Shannon and Linda still in California? And so it must have been 1996 where I don't know that we had ever met before, right? Like, we'd heard about each other, seen pictures of each other, but I was like, this is so great. Like, we could, because I remember when we first met, I'm like, we hit it off, it was so easy and so whatever, and we were already, I was 26, so later in life.
Right. Yeah. No, I think we're roughly the same age, I think.
Yeah. We're all about that same
we're all in that, which is so great, like we're peers. And I remember that too.
Right, for us too, because we don't really have cousins that we.
Yeah, we just don't have other family beyond the 5 of us that
and Aunt Mary's kids, but they're much younger.
And they live across the world.
Right, they're in Australia
Well, now one's in California. We haven't seen.
Right, but I became closer with them as I got older.
Okay. Yeah. No, I remember that too. We really did hit it off. I remember it was really easy, and then we came to your wedding, Christie.
I know, which was great.
Which was
really, so nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then more time went by, but we reconnected not too long ago, and now here you are, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you to modern technology for allowing us to do this. That's great.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I remember, it was towards sort of the tail end of the pandemic, but, everybody's been Zooming and doing all sorts of video chats. And so we hopped on and got to reconnect, which was amazing.
Right.
It's perfect.
Yeah, totally. So your mother is my Auntie Agnes, just so everyone knows who your mom is. And so I don't know. I don't even know where to start. So obviously this is a Bruce Lee podcast, so we talk a little bit about Bruce Lee, but I'd also love to talk about your mom and her memories and her relationship and with my dad and with our family, and sort of like what your experience has been with all of this.
I mean, I think the pictures that we've had, the few that we've had, my understanding, and I could be wrong, they were living in California together as young married people, right? Siblings. And I believe your parents babysat Andy when he was little.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have vague memories of that too, actually. And I also have vague memories of Brandon. Who I just remember him being sort of the cooler older kid that but yeah, just sort of these little snippets memories. But I do remember Mom talking about your dad, Bruce, always very fondly.
Right. Yeah, and just going back to the connection between our parents. I have pictures, my understanding is that when my parents got married, your mom was my mom's maid of honor and your dad was the best man, because they didn't know a lot of people or have a lot of friends here, and those were their closest family. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, Mom and Dad, I do recall, they unlike probably what it is now in California, they were probably one of the few Chinese couples. I know Dad, when he was at Berkeley, was probably one of the first Asian, students there. And then when he went on to Stanford as a graduate student, again, he was probably one of the few Asian people. And it was just like in, I think, that movie. I mean, people would come up to him and either jokingly or seriously ask him, are you delivering, Chinese food, or are you delivering, because it was so unusual. And so I think that affected his sort of the way he was too, just sort of kind of being the outsider, but still feeling, like, hey, I should be part of the student body as well. Because he still has very fond memories of the school, and in fact, he's still a diehard Stanford fan. It's every time a football game comes on, he talks about it.
Yeah.
So always has that connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I remember those pictures. I think you guys have those pictures too with your dad at the wedding. He and they all look so young.
And they were babies.
In their 20s. Yeah.
They were babies. Yeah.
It was. It's a little, and they actually look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my kids, I think it was Zach, actually said to Dad once, our dad, "Wow, you used to be a really good-looking guy." So I don't know if but I think he took it as a compliment.
You gotta love the honesty of kids.
Yeah, they just they tell it as it is, as does our dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No sugarcoating.
And we all have kids, all of us too. And I know my daughter has expressed wanting to meet you guys and wanting to meet your kids also.
Yeah.
So one of these days we'll have to make that happen.
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I don't know if this is I'm remembering the reasons why we got in touch, when I came out. It was 96 and Brandon had passed away. And people who knew, and not a lot of people know that my uncle is Bruce Lee, but a few of my close college friends knew, and they were like, "Oh my God, we heard the news. Like, how do you feel?" And I was like, I mean, I'm sad, but it's a shame. I never really knew him. Like
Yeah.
And so when I was coming out to California, like, there's no reason we shouldn't be in touch. And that was like the like, what are we waiting for? We don't need to wait for my parents to introduce us. Like,
Right.
So I'm just so glad we get to know each other.
Yeah, me too. Me too. For sure and for real. And yeah, we're adults, so we can, although I'm sure your parents, just like my mom, still treats me like I'm
Right. Oh yes.
It never ends.
Yeah.
It never ends. Yeah.
So what is that like for you guys when you tell someone, "Oh, my uncle is Bruce Lee"? Do people believe it, not believe it, freak out, like all that kind of stuff?
All of the above.
Right.
Like some people are like, "Oh my God," like, so meaningful. And then other people are like, "Oh," or, they'll be like, "Seriously?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, seriously." And my grandfather's Charlie Chan, like it just seems like, really, like, you're Chinese, so you're related to Bruce Lee. That can't be,
Well, it's funny because when I gave birth to Jackie, I named her Jacqueline, and I did not take my husband's last name. It's Chan. So when they saw the Jacqueline Chan, they're like, "Oh, you named her after Jackie Chan." I said, "No, your last name is Wong."
Well,
but I used to joke with people. I'm like, "Yeah, my uncle is Bruce Lee, and my other uncle is Jackie Chan." Yeah. But I don't know. I have to say, growing up, because I did not like to be the center of attention, I did not divulge it. And not because I was embarrassed or any of that. I just felt like it was a private thing, and I didn't like to call attention, maybe with my close friends, obviously. Right. And but when you're in a class, size, and people start asking, it would, I would get a little uncomfortable because it's a private thing. And I don't know, it's weird. I didn't like to call attention to that until maybe later in life, when I met my husband, or I dated Asian men who, you go into their rooms and it's just plastered.
Right. Almost everyone has that.
Up on the walls with nunchucks and, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a little weird."
You're like, "My uncle is all over your room."
Yeah,
I think part of it also is, in growing up when certainly in the 1970s, I mean, he was still just one of the most iconic figures. I mean, everyone sees it, recognize him. And so first of all, where we grew up, especially when we're at the time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Tampa, Florida in the 1970s, 80s, and even New Jersey, we were like the only Asian family for like miles around. So when you say, "Oh, my uncle's Bruce Lee," they're like, "Oh, sure, he is. Show me some of your moves." And when you can't, then it's a little embarrassing. But also at the same time, I think for me personally, even though there was that sense of connection, because obviously our mom talked about him and always talked about him fondly. There was still that really not knowing him, not knowing even you guys, and just really not feeling like if I was going to talk about him, I wanted to talk about him in the right way and knowing. But the reality was I didn't know and understand a lot of the things that he talked about, the story behind him. And quite frankly, a lot of these things, I learned secondhand, either through reading some things, just even watching that movie, Dragon, but also, I think that, I trained with somebody who trained with one of his students.
Right.
And, so you learn all of these things, bit by bit. But quite frankly, growing up, I didn't feel comfortable talking about it because I didn't know. I mean, I probably knew as much as the next fan did, other than the things that mom talked
Personal
about.
stories.
The
Yeah.
personal things, the personal snippets about how he had a really bad temper, and how, mom always remembered that, their father always said he was getting into trouble, and, he had to be very careful with him. I think my mom also, I don't know if you guys, she ever told you this, that she had a little bit of a temper. I think she smashed like a chair over his head or something, and that was like the only time. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the story I remember about Uncle Bruce was that when he was younger, he hated the dentist, and he got really, he didn't want to go to the dentist, and they were trying to give him a filling or something, and he punched the dentist. And he was like 12, like, yeah. But I don't know how much of that you guys don't remember that.
I don't remember that story. No.
It sounds in character. I'm not gonna lie,
but I do remember that mom would say, like, he was very charismatic. I think he was the favorite.
Yes,
even though he was not the
say
oldest son. 3 sons. I think there was a little sibling rivalry, and so I thought that was interesting. That dynamic. But she also said he was a great dancer, and very popular with the ladies. But just a great personality, and I think people were drawn to him.
Yeah. She did say he was very charismatic, and he just. I just remember her because obviously he had that way about him, but I think his dad recognized that, and that's why he put him in that, in the movies, or, had him act. So I think his dad probably recognized that, right away.
Yeah.
It seemed that way.
Same was true for me in a sense. Like, I didn't go around telling people that Bruce Lee was my dad because, I mean, I've always been more of an introvert anyway. And my mom was like, you don't really want that,
right?
Especially as a kid, it's like you just want people to like you for who you are, and and then obviously your close friends find out and all that kind of stuff. But I do have a funny story. When I was a kid, I was in junior lifeguards here. It was a summer program on the beach where you'd learn lifeguard skills, and it was the very first day, and I had a couple friends in the group with me, and we're all circled up on the beach. We're all just talking, and there's this girl, an Asian girl in the group, and she starts telling everybody that Bruce Lee is her uncle.
Really?
What?
And you're like, really? And you're just listening. That's great.
Yes. And my friends looked at me, and I looked at them, and I said, Bruce Lee is your uncle? I felt really bad for her because I'm sure that
she had issues.
Well,
yeah,
and she got away with that anywhere else, but she just happened to be in the wrong place telling that story.
Did you set her straight?
Yeah. What did you say?
Yeah,
I did. I said, really, Bruce Lee is your uncle? And she said, yep, that's right. And I said, so that would make us cousins? And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, well.
And
my friends were like,
a great story.
Yeah.
It's
Bad. Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah. So crazy.
Do you remember who she was? Like, do you remember her name? No.
No. I mean, this was when I was like 12 or 13 or
Right.
something.
Well, I wonder if there are people still saying Bruce Lee's my uncle. Like, I never wanted to be, called out for that. Like, you almost feel like a fake if you say that, because it's like, yeah, he's my uncle and I have nothing further to tell you. You didn't know him, so it's like, you don't want to say, have that connection when you don't feel like you really know more than the average. Like, people who worship him would know more than I did.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. Although I have a funny story. So recently, during COVID, I had to renew my license. So I'm waiting outside. Like, you're not even allowed into the DMV. It's a hot summer day. And I had worn a nice shirt and I was ready to get my picture taken or whatever. But after an hour and a half, 2 hours outside in the humid, hot, August weather, I finally get in and it's like air conditioned. And I'm like, ugh, just so like annoyed by everything. I get up to the front and I'm like, these are not the nicest people. They're like, going to be very curt with me. And it's just like, oh, I just want to get this done. And the two people behind the glass were chatting and they're like, oh yeah, when I get home, I'm going to watch a Bruce Lee movie. And I was like, that's so funny. And so I said to the person who was helping me, I was like, that's really funny. Bruce Lee is my uncle. And they're like, what? It was super interesting to hear their perspective. The person helping me was African-American woman. And she's like, my brother and I loved Bruce Lee. I mean, my brother idolized him. He just did so much. And it was just like so inspiring to see someone who was out, on the outside and like become really big. And I was like, that's really awesome. And she's like, and I can see the resemblance. She let me take my picture twice. Like, I have not had as good a, license picture ever. It was hilarious. But it was a really nice random connection. And I never used that connection. Like, what are you going to use it for?
No.
Well, now you can use this more often. The next time you're online somewhere, it probably won't work as well.
It's funny that you mentioned the DMV because my daughter Jackie just got her license in August and she failed the first time, as most of the Chan, Belknap.
Well, on your side, yeah.
Yes. So she went the second time and she wore her Bruce Lee t-shirt with his image on. And she just likes this t-shirt. Like, she wears it a lot. So she just got in the car and the gentleman was older and he's like, oh, I love your t-shirt. And she said, oh, he's my great uncle. And he's like, oh, he let her parallel park 3 times.
That's amazing.
So I owe that to Uncle Bruce.
Right?
His legacy carries on in the DMV and with the driver's ed.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, it's funny because so many people have such a positive and enthusiastic reaction to him if they are fans. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, because as you can imagine, I have a ton of Bruce Lee t-shirts. I'm wearing a Bruce Lee sweatshirt right now. Nice. But I like to wear a Bruce Lee t-shirt when I'm in sort of more challenging places like the airport or, the DMV is a great place, or because people go like, oh, Bruce Lee. And they suddenly get like,
right.
It's amazing how his image, I mean, his image is so iconic. I mean, there are very few individuals, maybe like Elvis Presley or, barely, exactly, James Dean, that kind of thing. And what's impressive is that it's carried on to another generation. And part of it, thanks to, what you're doing, but everything else in terms of just that legacy that he built. And just, I think, again, it sort of transcends the whole martial arts thing. So it's pretty impressive. And then, to what Christie was saying, I think it's very true. It's not just, I mean, obviously especially Asian men growing up, they really just looked up to him and obviously could identify and just found it amazing that this, Asian American who really not too different in terms of size and just, the way they look. They could identify with him. But at the same time, you have individuals. I cannot tell you how many. I remember working as a resident, and someone let it out that my uncle was Bruce Lee, but African Americans, I think, probably second to Asian Americans, just found him so just impressive on many levels. Just obviously the martial arts, but the fact that he broke through as a minority in films. And it wasn't just like as the sidekick, it was like a major star. I mean, it was really mind blowing, and people, still respect that. But yeah, I think the minority community, especially, just really embraces him, especially as an iconic figure.
I mean, do you think that it's really also a product of he was willing to teach whomever who wanted to learn?
I mean, it's just so ahead of his time on many levels. I mean, just adopting what he found useful, just throwing away, form and, the traditional ways of doing martial arts. I mean, I had just learned, when I was training, I mean, JKD is really a combination of Western martial arts. I mean, it's fencing and boxing. It's not so much kung fu or karate.
Yeah, well, it has the Wing Chun influence in it too. So it has some Chinese kung fu, and because it's created by my father, it's Chinese in origin in a way. But yes, strong influences in Western boxing and fencing. So it is this, there is these bridges that he was always sort of creating in his life, and he is very beloved in the African American community, in the Latinx community, in just all over the world. I'm always so amazed by the impact that he has made. Yeah, it's wild.
I mean, Western Europe, you have a huge following there too.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a statue of my dad, your uncle, in Mostar, Bosnia.
Yes, I saw that when that was erected. I remember reading about it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, so after all the conflict there, and they were trying to decide on what, many of the monuments were destroyed, and they were trying to decide what to put back. And, of course, they were in a lot of disagreement about, who to put where, but they all could agree on Bruce Lee. And so they decided
no-brainer
to erect, also because, as they said, he to them was a symbol of ethnic harmony. Yeah. Of people, of someone who brought people together. Right. And so, they loved him, and then also he was a symbol of that. So
which is very ironic for a kid who punched his dentist in the mouth, but it all came together. Yeah.
Yes. Luckily, time and maturity and a good grounding in philosophy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so as you know, this season, the theme is family, which is why I'm so thrilled to have you guys on here. And so some questions I'm just asking about family, and maybe we'll start since we've been talking about Bruce Lee. I don't know if you guys know this, but he has a quote where he said in an interview, the interviewer asked him, well, do you think of yourself more as North American, or do you think of yourself more as Chinese? And he said, how I like to think of myself is as a human being. Then he said, because under the sky, under the heavens, there's but one family. And so I've been asking everybody based on that quote, given the state of the world, which, as we can see, is in quite a state. What do you think? What do you think the world needs in terms of helping us to become more one family? It's a big one.
Wow, that's a heavy question.
Let's just solve this.
It can just be any. It can be anything. It doesn't have to. We don't have to solve the problem here.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of it is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is a big one. Compassion.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I think is just in my family personally, you know, having experienced, you know, I won't be specific, but seeing like someone you love that's in going through a tough time, and maybe you don't agree with the way they express it, you just realize they're in pain. So if you can just empathize with that and recognize that, I think you approach things differently.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not as defensive. Maybe it's not you know, you're more trying to help and sort of, you know, understand.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes, you know, when you approach someone thinking like, what are they thinking? You know, like just trying to not be defensive and, you know, being open. And so therefore, hopefully having that openness to you.
Yeah.
What was the question?
What do you think would help us to come together to be more one family?
I think kind of what Christie and Julie were saying, but I think just having open dialogue. I think if people actually listen, because one of the things that I've learned in like the 22 plus years of practice, and it's gotten progressively more difficult because of the time constraints, but when you listen to the patient, just like you listen to someone who may not necessarily agree with you, and you kind of say to yourself, well, you know what, I don't agree, but there are some points that actually make sense. And what I've learned, you know, and for the most part, I really do listen to the patients. You know, I actually like most of my patients, but they come from really diverse backgrounds. A lot of them are blue collar, and they just happen to be, you know, either sympathetic to, you know, to the Republican Party, but then you have others that are very liberal, and you hear both ends. And then when you kind of piece it together, there's definitely a commonality. I mean, I think the bottom line is, as Uncle Bruce had said, you know, we're all human beings, and everyone just kind of wants the same thing. It's just that everyone's coming from different angles and different backgrounds. You know, we're raised differently, you know, be it from, you know, a Christian background, a Catholic background, or a Jewish background, or, you know, like we have a subset of patients that are, you know, Hispanic. You just kind of just get the sense that we really all are one and the same, you know, just listening to people. And this is just hearing them. And when they talk about other things besides their medical health, they, you know, they disagree about certain things, individuals, be it a politician, be about, you know, whatever protest, be about what's being said in the media. But I think the bottom line is, I mean, we all want kind of the same things. We all want to be happy. We all want, you know, to have, you know, nice things. So we see that it's just that everyone's coming from different angles and different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I think if there was more dialogue and more, you know, talking, I think that would probably alleviate some of the things, and we'd all realize, hey, you know what, we're all kind of more similar than we are different.
Yeah.
You know, part of the problem also is that there's just so much polarization, you know, that has occurred, and unfortunately, I think a lot of it is perseverated by, you know, media. You turn on Fox News and then you switch it to the next channel, CNN, and you're thinking to yourself, am I in the same country, because they're saying polar opposite things.
Yeah. No, I think polarization is rampant, which is, you know, one of the reasons why I'm asking this question. And I think I love all of your answers, you know, communicating and listening, right? Like not just talking, but also listening, you know, is really important. And all of this polarization is not making things better, right? And so it's why I want to just talk about, just throw some things out there about, well, what do you think the solution is? Because we're just being driven further and further apart,
Yeah. And I think that's the big problem is people hear things, they're truly not listening. Yeah. They're really not taking it in. And if you really do that, you really, then you kind of get it,
Yeah.
and that's part of
the context. You don't understand where they're coming from and the context that they're seeing it through their lens.
Right.
I mean, just as a mild example, I remember during the elections, one of the things was like, hey, I've got family in Pennsylvania and coal country, and they can't even think about climate change because they're thinking about getting food on the table. So when you put it in that context, sure. I mean, it's understandable. So it's, it goes to what Andy said. It's like everybody wants the same thing.
We do. Yeah. We all want the same thing. We all want to be happy and healthy and, feel supported, be able to live our lives without too much difficulty. Right. And I think what you both said, Julie and Christie, about, working toward understanding. It's the same thing, like listening and working toward understanding and trying to, see things through someone else's lenses. Like it's all sort of the same thing. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And so, and then, in terms of the word family, I just really, I'm asking everybody, because I'm so curious, like, what is to you all is when you say the word family or you hear the word family, like what is the feeling of the word family for you?
Whose family?
Is it the immediate or the family that we grew up in?
Well, I mean, in the bigger sense, like you don't have to say like when I hear the word family, I think, I think of that. I mean, like in just like whether it's blood family or chosen family, family, just family, like in its best sense, what is the feeling about it?
I think of it as support, like unconditional support, unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Like no matter what happens, like we'll always have each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I feel like you can't pick your family. You're kind of born into it. In the physical sense, like believe me, I consider friends family, because we're close. But if you're talking about your biological family, you can't pick them. But what I will say is that even if we have differences, I know that like my siblings, for example, will always be there regardless, when the bleep hits the fan, I know that they will be there for me.
Yeah, I think with family, there's always that sense that there's some underlying bond or connection. Just like even just speaking with the three of you. I mean, even though I haven't seen you, Shannon, in a while, and Christie and Julie. I mean, we talk, and unfortunately, we don't get that much opportunity to see each other as often as I probably should. There's always that feeling of a bond or connection that is underlying, and maybe that was sort of the same thing with our Uncle Bruce, your dad. It was just through our mom and just through just seeing the visuals, the pictures, and just having that understanding. It just, there's something underlying that you have that connection, and it's hard to verbalize, but it's more of a feeling.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are all beautiful sentiments, and I feel the same. And that's why I'm so happy to have you guys on, because you are actually my family.
the concept.
blood family.
Right.
And there aren't too many of them. So, so, I know that we haven't spent much time together, and we, physical time together, and we haven't communicated all that much over our lifetimes. And still, I'm so grateful for the connection that we have. And
well, that's not over, like this is right. Like, that's why, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I may only have like 20 good years left in me.
We still got time.
But based off of the family tree, we've got a few other ones that are out there around the same age.
Yeah.
On the other side of the world. But
yeah.
But no, I feel like because I think our mom had always spoken about your dad and your mom. There was a closeness, even though we weren't physically close. There was a closeness. Yeah.
No, and I love asking about this feeling of family, just because I also want and hope and pray that because so many of the people I've interviewed this season for family have had such beautiful answers, just like you guys, to this question. And it's like, how can we take those feelings and propagate them out toward our human family as well,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I am grateful to know you guys are out there, and to be able to, have that connection. There is this sort of invisible bond that connects us.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And going back to just that, sort of, we haven't spoken in a while, and this is sort of the first time in a while. I remember the day where our mom called us about Brandon. When she found out, I still remember it was, I was on call at one of the hospitals. I was sitting in my call room, and I was just looking through, some things, but she was trying to explain to me what she thought had happened. And one of the first things I had thought, and I still remember this, is, gosh, I wish I had known him a little bit more. Because it's kind of like that sort of lost opportunity. Just on a personal level, just because, we're, again, family, and really, I only had, again, these little snippets, these fond memories of him, but that was it. And so I just kind of remember that feeling, obviously not the same loss that you and your mom had, but just that feeling I wish there was, that time, and maybe, who knows, if I ever would have made time, he would have, but, just that feeling gosh, I wish there was something a little bit more.
Yeah, when that actually happened, I was in college, and I remember seeing it in the New York Times. And I was really just seeing the article in the Times really, made me very sad. And I wished that, we knew each other back then so that we could support you. Because I think we all felt it and just didn't know how to reach out and express it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And, it's a similar thing for me with my dad, because I was 4 when my dad died, and so I have such limited memory of him also, and I think that's the biggest hurdle whenever you lose someone, is you just think, oh, I wish I'd had more time, with that person. So, so thank you. Well, we've got, we'll get together and I'll tell you all the Brandon stories, because there are a lot of them. Brandon was a character.
Sounds like you took after his dad.
Yes. Yes.
That's hilarious.
He never punched a dentist, but I will tell you a story. It was the 70s, and my mom dropped Brandon and I off at the dentist. I was probably, I don't know, 8 or and Brandon was like 12, or maybe I was a little older, like 10 and 14, something like that. And I hated the dentist, as most people do. And the dentist was doing something with me and I was crying, and he slapped me. The dentist slapped me. Which nowadays,
that was in the 70s, you know, that was.
Yeah, it was allowed in the 70s.
Nowadays, that would have triggered a lawsuit and the whole thing, but whatever. Yeah. Like, the dentist slapped me, and Brandon was there, and he got so mad, and he screamed at the dentist. And then when my mom came back to pick us up, he got in the car and he slammed the door so hard that the window broke. Before safety glass, the window broke on the car. So we have great dentist stories in our family.
Yeah, it sounds like the Lee family and the dentist really don't get along very well. Right? Yeah,
that's really funny.
Oh Lord. Wow. So one more question. This is another one that I ask everybody, and I really do truly believe that everyone has some wisdom to share. You don't have to be a celebrity or any of that kind of stuff to have wisdom to share, because we're all humans, we're all living life. I always ask everyone, because this is a philosophy-based conversation. And so I always ask everyone, what is a lesson that you've learned in your life, or a piece of wisdom that you've gained in your life that you'd like to pass on?
It seems deep enough.
Yeah.
I've learned to keep my mouth shut. So.
That's a good one.
Gosh.
Well, you guys are more than welcome to start.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Just anything that
we just talked about with our daughter, because we were visiting colleges this weekend, and we had a very long car ride. But the one thing I did say to her, I said, I will never judge anyone based off of, what's surface anymore, because having, walked in my own shoes, I never would want someone to judge what we've been through on the surface, because again, context, you don't know what that person has been through. Mm-hmm. So I try to really, again, look at the whole picture, and before I cast a judgment, I try to understand first. And I tell that to my daughter too, because just what appears on the surface is usually not the full story.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, mine is much more simple. I mean, but sort of to the same thing. It's just be kind,
Yeah. Being kind, by the way, just like it, even if you have to deliver like a negative comment or a troubling, something,
have a complaint.
If you can do it kindly, it makes all the difference in the world.
It's true. And you know what? It's usually easier to be kind.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if it's hard, it's probably the easier and the right thing to do.
Yeah.
At least fake it, this way. They think you're kind.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to what I was saying before, just in the years of practice and just seeing so many patients, I mean, I just think getting back to that whole process of listening to someone, from my standpoint, listening to get a coherent medical history. But I think, just as an aside, when I actually make the time to listen to what they're saying, just about their family, their kids, sort of, what they're thinking, it gives me a more complete picture of the person. And I think just in general, if we do that with anything, with any conversation, you just pick up more. You're only going to learn more. You're going to pick up more. And that may change how you interact with somebody. It may change how you see somebody. And then, you hope vice versa. I think the problem right now is that no one's listening to each other. It's just, they have something set in their mind. They're going to say it, be it the media, the news, be it individuals. And I honestly, really, if people really just listen and just take a step back, I think that would solve at least some of the consternation that has gone on.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's something that I've kind of learned to do better over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. All of you. Yeah, that was great. So before we go, what are you excited about? You excited about getting off of this call so that you can have dinner?
Yeah, so I can do more work and just, this is the highlight of my day right now.
Yeah.
No, but it is really just nice being able to talk. I mean, just, the form. I mean, and it's like you said, I mean, we really are close in age where we have the same perspective of things, not just from a generational standpoint, but just from a background standpoint. Just because you don't get a lot of that. I mean, you have people of different, again, ethnicities, backgrounds, but there is that commonality that certainly I feel in doing something like this.
Yeah. I have to say, I know we've talked about Brandon a lot, which has been beautiful and great. And I have to say, like, I so appreciate that we are all around the same age and that we do have this family connection. Because I just remember thinking when Brandon died, like, oh gosh, like I've lost the one person who had like a similar context to me, like we had a similar life experience and now I don't have that person anymore.
Right.
know? But I have all of you.
I know.
We're not quite as charismatic, but I think at least if you're a little lonely, you can just get on the Zoom and one of us will be there. So
Right.
we'll be available.
Oh, well, thank you. It has been such a pleasure speaking to you guys. Thank you for doing this. I know it's probably outside of the norm for you guys to do something like this, but I've really appreciated talking with you. And I know that, the listeners will also love getting to know you guys as well.
Well, thank you for having us, Shannon.
It's a lot of fun.
Right. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
And we don't do this a lot amongst each other. So you've given us that opportunity too. So thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. And please give my love to your mom and your dad.
We will.
Your mom
And to your mom as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
Great to see you.
Go Giants.